Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Today on the channel, we're going to talk about some cool 60s tracks from the psychedelic era that feature backwards guitar. So the first one here I'm going to mention is a track that was a top 10 hit in early 1968. This was a guy that would become a huge success in the later 70s, or should we say mid 70s, later 70s, throughout the 80s with a lot of love songs and middle-aged heartthrob, but for a short bit of time in 1968, he became psychedelicized. I'm talking about Kenny Rogers and the first edition, their song called Just Dropped In to See What Condition My Condition Was In. This is their greatest hits album. So I've always loved this track. There's something really, it's kind of cheesy in some ways, but it's kind of cool in other ways. I like the, obviously the way that it kicks off with that kind of backwards guitar. And it has those really kind of eerie, ghostly, kind of flanged backup vocals. And I don't know, I think it's really cool. And this is while we're starting off today, we're starting off with a very cool backwards guitar track from the 1960s. Just Dropped In to See What Condition My Condition Was In by Kenny Rogers and the first edition. Another great one, the iconic Beck's Bolero from Jeff Beck from the album Truth, but the backwards guitar only is on the mono version. Now I bought this remastered CD version of Truth back in the early 2000s. I think it came out in 2006. Has just a bunch of stellar outtakes, and one of them being the mono version of Beck's Bolero. And during the outro, there's this really cool backwards guitar part that kind of fades out, kind of lasts a little while, fades out. But I mean, what an amazing track Beck's Bolero is, right? I mean, it really is just, it's almost kind of like, it's almost like looking towards the future in the next couple of years in the late 60s. I mean, this song was recorded in 1966. It had Keith Moon on drums, John Paul Jones on bass. We have Jimmy Page on the bolero strummed guitar. And then, of course, that iconic guitar line from Jeff Beck. And then there's that midsection where it kind of breaks down a little bit and it gets really kind of atmospheric. And Beck is just being really subtle and atmospheric with his playing, and then it gets into that midsection where it just goes ballistic. Keith Moon yelling and the drums out of control, and just goes into that full stomp, like proto heavy metal. It's just it's amazing what is packed into this tune in under 3 minutes, and it's such an advanced song for 1966. Wouldn't appear on Truth till 2 years later in 1968. It was the flip side to the song called Hi Ho Silver Lining. I believe that was Jeff Beck's first solo single, but it was the B-side when that single came out in 67. So it had a little bit of history. It was recorded in 66, not released till 67 as the B-side of Hi Ho Silver Lining, and then it was finally released on Truth in July 68. So just an absolute masterpiece. If you ever want to hear the mono version, check it out on YouTube. It's really cool how it ends, and then that psychedelic backwards guitar ends the song at the coda. Fantastic stuff. Truth, Jeff Beck, the song Beck's Bolero, but the mono version with the backwards guitar at the very coda, end of the coda. Another favorite of mine is the backwards guitar solo right in the middle of Castles Made of Sand, off Axis Bold as Love by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. First of all, can we just talk real quick about the amazing ballads Jimi Hendrix wrote? I mean, Castles Made of Sand, The Wind Cries Mary, Angel, May This Be Love of Are You Experienced? I mean, of course the guy is just like phenomenal as far as guitar playing, but I think he's just as phenomenal as a songwriter, and I don't think he gets enough credit. I've talked about it before on this channel. I think his songwriting is absolutely stellar. I love his singing kind of voice, and that's all over Castles Made of Sand. It's such a just an incredible track, and that little backwards guitar solo in the middle, and that's just one of many just amazing ballads. I mean, you've got Little Wing on the same album here. You've got Axis Bold as Love, the title track, but love Castles Made of Sand, one of my absolute favorite Jimi Hendrix songs, and that is being featured today for backwards guitar solos or backwards guitar tracks from 1960s. The Byrds, their fourth album, Younger Than Yesterday. There's a song in here by Chris Hillman called Thoughts and Words, featuring a really cool backwards guitar part by Roger McGuinn. Now, on this album, Chris Hillman's really beginning to show himself as a really prime songwriter. So you've got Have You Seen Her Face, which they played at Monterey Pop Festival, written by Chris Hillman. They got Time Between, one of the first real, like, overtly country rock songs on an album. I think it even features Clarence White on guitar. And then you've got Thoughts and Words on side 1, starting off side 2. Or it's track 1, side 2, Thoughts and Words. Really, really great track. One of my favorite Byrds albums. If it wasn't for Mind Gardens, it would be just an absolute perfect record. They had thrown in maybe It Happens Each Day, which was an outtake from this album, or even Don't Make Waves instead of Mind Gardens. I think it would have been just a perfect record. But back then, certain decisions made by record companies, I'll just never understand why they, included certain songs that didn't belong on albums and then were relegated to B-sides. I don't know. I don't know why these decisions were made. But anyway, Thoughts and Words is a fantastic track. Great vocal by Chris Hillman. Fantastic backwards guitar solo by Roger McGuinn. A track that hit number 11 on the charts in 1966. The Electric Prunes, I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night, features backwards guitar all over this track. Real magical track, really like incredible production for 1966. I've always thought this song really, really, really epitomizes like psychedelia from the 1960s. I mean, it's a great track, but it just has all that just crazy soundscape thing going on. Great stuff. Electric Prunes, I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night, and we're talking backwards guitar all over the track. Fantastic stuff. Late 67, The Pretty Things released a track. It was a failure on the charts, but an incredible, just out there, just way out there track called Defecting Gray. And it's featured as one of the bonus tracks on SF Sorrow here. I got into this album maybe about 4 years or so ago, and I think it's just fantastic. I've heard about it for years. I just never got around to really hearing it, but I think it's just fantastic from beginning to end. And I think the bonus tracks on this album are just as good as the album tracks. Defecting Gray, it's almost like, it starts off kind of like almost like a Syd Barrett whimsy kind of thing, and then it just goes full throttle. Again, almost like pro-metal. Then it goes back to the Syd Barrett whimsy thing. It's just all over the place. And really, really an odd choice for a single, but really, again, a very advanced single for 1967. By the way, if you have never heard this album and you want to just get the single release, this is a great addition here. Along with Defecting Gray, you've got other just standout bonus tracks on here like Mr. Evasion, Talking About the Good Times. This is really good. And then a song called Walking Through My Dreams. All fantastic bonus tracks. Defecting Gray from The Pretty Things from late 67, included as a bonus track on SF Sorrow, featuring more backwards guitar all over the track. One that I featured a while back, I'll feature it again, is The Who, from The Who Sellout. Armenia, City in the Sky, first track. Doesn't really sound like anything else on the album. Of course, it's just kind of a semi-concept album, all these little kind of commercials thrown in between the songs. But then you've got Roger Daltrey's voice altered, sounding very helium-voiced like. But yeah, again, very overtly psychedelic, something that The Who really didn't do very often. And just a lot of cool backwards guitar throughout the track, written by Speedy King and Pete Townsend. Speedy King later formed Thunderclap Newman, which Pete Townsend produced. So another example of a really cool backwards guitar track from 1967 from The Who Sellout, the track Armenia, City in the Sky. And then we cannot leave out two of the greatest backwards guitar tracks from the psychedelic era, and they're both on Revolver from the Beatles. The first one being I'm Only Sleeping. Just, I mean, the way the Beatles just made things happen, and just the way it's just all so perfect how it's put out there, on every track they do just about. I mean, I'm Only Sleeping. The way it comes in, that backwards guitar solo, created by George Harrison. I think this was the first instance of a real backward guitar solo on a track. But the way it just rolls in and then rolls out, and then and throughout the song you hear a little bit of like a little dash of backward guitar coming in here after a phrase here or a phrase there, and then the coda with the backward guitar solo again, kind of like ending the song. I mean, it's just incredible. It's just magic. And then of course, Tomorrow Never Knows, the final track on Revolver, featuring a stellar backwards guitar solo by Paul McCartney. Some people think it's Harrison, but I think I've read enough online where I do believe it is Paul McCartney playing the backwards guitar solo on Tomorrow Never Knows. And I think that's one of my, I mean, there's so many incredible moments on Tomorrow Never Knows within that 3-minute frame, right? John Lennon's voice through the Leslie speaker, midway through the song, that backwards guitar solo right in the middle really just adds just an amazing touch to the song. So yeah, when that backwards guitar solo comes in, it's just, oh my God, it's just incredible. And then followed by John Lennon's voice on the Leslie speaker. It's just pure magic. Another 2 great examples of backwards guitar solos from the 1960s. And then last but not least, probably my favorite backwards guitar solo of all time, and that is Are You Experienced from Jimi Hendrix, the title track. Oh my God, what an amazing, amazing sound coming out of those speakers. There's something about it. It always gets me. It's so emotional sounding and so heartfelt and soulful. And what else can you say? I mean, it just fits in perfectly with the track and that piano bang, bang, you know. Great, great stuff here. Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Probably my all-time favorite backwards guitar solo from 1967 from Are You Experienced? Do you have any to add to the list? Throw them in the comments section. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.